it's a common thing that shows and films are going to be products of their time. And the danger of it is that it dates them to some extent. But it's all within the means by which you handle it and how you deal with certain things that can be timeless and universal and whatnot. And so such is the case with The Way to Eden, which is basically Star Trek acknowledging hippies and all that was going on at the time with the 60s and all that. So the Enterprise encounters space hippies. And this is easily one of my least favorite shows from Star Trek. There's still some good stuff in it. But it gets too close to parody, which is why, and the parody is too much in there, whereas something like Spock's Brain, it's just so silly and funny that I enjoy it much more than this one. But even though the plot points here are pretty sound, basically, you've got this group here that are basically space hippies, and they're led by a guru. It's sort of a Dr. Leary / Charles Manson. Well, maybe that's a bit strong. But it's pretty much the setup that you see, and it does get repeated. Or it wasn't just something of the 60s, and the youth rebel and all that sort of thing. And part of his group is one of the members is the son of a diplomat, and that's why the Kirk's ordered to deal with them with some kid gloves and whatnot. But they've stolen a ship, and this is another thing, a little aside here, because you got the new effects added to it to kind of spruce up classic Star Trek and sort of merge it in with Next Generation and stuff like that. So the planets look more realistic, and sometimes it's a bit jarring as it doesn't quite gel with the old footage, but. In this instance, they show the ship that the hippie cult has stolen, and the original is much better looking than the one they replaced it with. But it's pretty obvious what they did was take the Tholian ship and I think move it backwards and then put the little, what are they, the nacelles or the little rockets on the edge there, and that was all they did. But still, I think it looks a lot better. It's a better design and everything, but they went with the new one, and so it's its own thing. So anyway, they're determined to find this mythical planet of Eden. Now, the Kirk and their crew says, "Oh, that's just a myth. You're being ridiculous and whatnot." But the idea that there could be some tropical planet, I mean, they've been to a couple already, so it's not that far fetched. But I guess this one would just be a super paradise, and they believe in it, and they think they know where it is, and so there they go. But they're coming close to the neutral zone and Romulan territory, and so they're risking all kinds of problems. But Kirk, of course, the Enterprise catches up with them, puts them in a tractor beam, and they resist, and the ship ends up exploding, but they're able to beam them aboard. And so there they are. And of course, under orders from the Federation, Kirk is not allowed to just throw them into the brig where they belong, because they're thieves at this point. And we're risking serious damage with passing into the neutral zone, that sort of thing. But no, he's got to cheat him with kid gloves and all that. But they immediately insult him and call him a Herbert. So that's... And they're making up this slang that's supposed to sound like what the hippies with their, everything's groovy and far out and take the trip. That's the one thing they didn't add here. They weren't dropping acid. They're getting the crew I guess that was going too far for the censors at the time anyway. But they had their own, slang and whatnot that they would use. And instead of the peace symbol, they would put their hands together. Are you one? Well, Spock is sympathetic to some of this stuff, this idea of cosmic thought and whatnot, and seeking beyond yourself, and so he's sympathetic to that level, and they try to charm him. The guy keeps singing songs all the time, and they're terrible. Just terrible. I actually get Spock to join in on a jam session, and oh boy, it's really bad. But I don't know. I guess entertainment was pretty lacking on the Enterprise because the crew seems to really like their performance. So yeah. Meanwhile, their leader has a secret. He's developed a viral infection as a result of advanced technology. So there's some sort of disease. Bones explains it, and that is what happens. He doesn't suffer the symptoms, but he is a carrier of it, which makes him a potential threat to other people. But McCoy had to make sure everyone's vaccinated and all that sort of stuff. And which is the origin of his beliefs. He's angry at modern society and all that because he feels it's the one that made it. That's what's made him sick, and it's driven him insane because Spock himself talks with him and comes to that conclusion that he's crazy. But the other members of the group are loyal to him to their detriment, and so they end up they take over the ship and all this stuff. Complicating matters is one of the members is a old ex-girlfriend of Chekhov, so Chekhov gets some romance here, and but he doesn't. It's not like he betrays the crew or anything. He's just distracted by her, and of course they do successfully take it over, which ultimately is the Federation's fault. They tied Kirk's hands. They should have been put in the brig until they returned over to whatever starbase. But they, they wanted to accommodate a diplomat because it's his little boy on there. And so what do? Well, they take over the ship and damn near kill the crew because the Dr. Severin, his name, who was played by the same actor who played the Nazi guy from that episode. But now he's got a shaved head and weird ears. They decided, well, we got to do some different ears beyond just pointed ears. But anyway, he figures out to attack them with sonic waves and whatnot, which was very dangerous and damaging. But he's like, well, we got to take the risk. And the others are kind of like, I don't know. But they're stupid hippies, so they go along with it. And they steal the shuttlecraft, and they find a planet within Romulan space, so they almost risked an attack from the Romulans. But there's a reason why the Romulans have not colonized this planet, because it's nothing but poison and acid. And so the singer guy eats one of the fruits and dies because it's poison. And they're all sitting in the shuttle with their feet on fire and stuff because the grass is acidic, and they're all barefoot because they got to get back to nature, man. And so they've got these blisters on their feet and everything. And Dr. Severin just can't accept that he was wrong, so he breaks free and dashes over and eats one of the fruits and then dies. And so, well, didn't really like the guy anyway. So. And, I mean, I guess in that aspect, it's showcasing trying to be a part of the now, with its space hippies on that episode. But at the same time, it's not very sympathetic to them, not really. Because it just shows them for the dangerous idiots that they are. Another weird thing was that I guess because they needed an extra few seconds of footage or whatever, they put in these shots of Kirk, but it's reversed. Like he changes his part in his hair and puts his badge on the other side. And I guess they just needed the extra footage. I don't know, but they do it twice in this episode, so it's a little odd. So yeah, it's plot point wise, it's pretty good. It's in that respect, it's better than something like Spock's Brain, because this sort of stuff does happen. You have connections, and you're a spoiled, rotten brat. You join this crew, but it turns out your father's a higher up diplomat or what have you, with connections and whatnot, and so you just get a slap on the wrist at best. And so that certainly plays out, and you show what disasters it results in. And of course that little asshole survives, so and so does Chekhov's ex-girlfriend, but they're too far apart, so there's no real future there. Interestingly enough, one of the hippie girls tried to put the moves on Sulu, but he wasn't having any of that. Well, so not one of my favorites, but there again, it's just primarily because it's just too much. It suddenly becomes a musical with their god-awful songs and, trying to be hip and happening, that sort of thing. But plot point-wise, it's pretty solid. So, anyway, there you go. And you can call Kirk a hermit all you want, but he was right in the end, wasn't he? Yeah, he sure was. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.